Let's get ourselves connected. Gotta get yourself connected.
We have an exciting interview for you today. We have Wendy Rombough, who is a professional photographer. We're going to get some great photography tips as well as printing tips as well. Thanks for coming in.
You're welcome.
Very
Thanks
good.
for having me.
Absolutely. So first of all, clearly you work with a lot of children's photos, and I can imagine that children are probably pretty difficult to photograph at the best of times.
It's a challenge sometimes, but it's worth it what you get in the end when you capture them being themselves.
Do you want to give us a couple tips for those budding photographers out there, things that they can do to take better pictures?
Sure. I think the main one that I would like to point out is just letting the kids be themselves, get them doing what they naturally do.
That's one of the things that people probably first and foremost do wrong, is that when they take their digital cameras, they get everybody together and they try to get them to stand still and take a picture, smile, take a picture. But in fact, you're saying that that in a more natural environment, catch them doing what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's easier, it's more fun for everyone. Everyone enjoys the process, and then you end up getting more natural shots.
Is there like a certain distance away that you should be from someone taking a photo, or should you be right up in their face? Or
well, I think you need to know your camera, first of all, right? That's also another tip, is to just know your camera inside out, because there's so many things you can do that you probably don't even realize. And each camera will have a focal distance, like the closest you can get.
Right.
I would say that you should get as close as you can get, and then a little bit closer. Like, I think you should always try and get as close as possible and get rid of as much of the background as possible, because then the focus is on your subject. You know,
cool.
You can do that later though too, with cropping, and so if your focal distance only lets you get this close, then crop it out later. The outside.
Oh, very cool. So. Right away, there's a bunch of things in front of us here. There's some exciting things that you can do with photos once you've got them in your camera, and I think that's a big thing that we always talk about on this show, is get them off the computer, and really you can do way more than just using them on your printer at home. You've got a number of different things here, like bound books and calendars. Now HP actually has a kiosk that you can take your photos to. Yep,
they're called HP Photo Smart Studio, and they're in various places across Canada. You can find out where they're closest to you on the hp.ca website. But they're a kiosk that you take your digital media card or a disc, and you just go to the kiosk, and it's all touch screen. You put your card or your disc in, and you can lay out these different projects yourself. You do it yourself, and then they're situated beside a photo lab, so they actually print it out with, like, while you're there. You wait, go shopping, whatever, for an hour, and come back, and you've got your bound book ready to go.
And that's really what blew me away. I mean, this doesn't take weeks to do, but you can literally go down there with your camera or your CD-ROM full of photos, and you can literally, and I'll just show a couple of these pictures here, but this is obviously the title page here, but then you lay them out. You just put them in a bunch of different creative ways. Now, is it difficult to set these up, or are there templates that you can follow?
There are templates, there are different themes, different colors. This is a very basic template. You can change the color of the images from color to black and white, or sepia, or an antique finish. But it will do it all for you, depending on how many pages you want and how many images you have.
Okay, and then you literally come back and you pick this up and it's set to go.
Yep.
You did another one here. I thought this was kind of fun. You talked about, if you're going to start to do this, why not have some fun with it? You did sort of themes. This is all of your son Wyatt kind of in his
crazy mode.
Yeah. But I thought that was kind of cool. Like, if you have a whole bunch of photos on one event, like a birthday or whatever, you can really create a book just to that.
Yeah, and he loved it. I mean, getting the kids involved in the process helps you get better images of them also. So, he got to see this book made of himself, and he just thinks it's so cool. Of course, now he won't put the markers down and wants to color himself all the time. But no, you get the children involved, and even with the home printers, doing things like, there's a little HP printer where they can draw with a stylus, and he was drawing spider webs on here, and he just thought that was the coolest thing. I mean, he's almost 5, so it's amazing how easy these things are. The technology that is just incredible.
Well, that's a good example. This is a printer that you might have at home, specifically a photo printer that you can actually be more interactive with. Cool. Yep. And then just one last thing I want to look at here. It's not just photo books, but there's a number of things that the kiosk does. This is an example of a calendar, so pretty traditional, but the idea of personalizing your calendar and getting that all printed for you.
The thing that's nice about these also is that you can set the date, so you could start a calendar in February.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so you could have it start, so you can do the
many times of the year. Is that the worst than getting a calendar halfway through the year, and you're like, wow, I just...
Yeah, they're wonderful. They make great gifts.
That's cool.
And there's a poster also. You can do posters.
Oh, yeah. Do we have that?
We've got a poster there. That one, I did a theme of him apple picking. Same thing, I just stuck the images in and it laid it all out for me. I could have got a little more fancy with colors and borders, but...
And you can do like huge pictures or small pictures, and you do whatever you want.
And there's a bigger one. I think it's 24 by 36 it goes up to.
So if people are going to want to take their cameras and they want to be more adventurous, how do they find these photo kiosks?
HP.ca website would show you where the ones are local to your city.
Perfect.
They're across Canada.
A couple of photo tips for you, and hopefully we can get those pictures out of your cameras and off your computers and do some exciting things. Thanks so much for showing us this cool stuff.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Very cool.
Gotta get connected.